All right. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon, or I suppose good early evening to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you guys are watching from. Wanted to reach out to you guys. Thank you guys so much for bearing with us. We are going to get into this week in review, as you know, the show in which we get into the goings on in the world of entertainment and talking about some of the things that happen over the course of the week. Um, a lot of times, we'll get into all types of things, whether it's, in film and television, in sports. That's a new thing that we have, going this go around is getting into sports, but we'll also get into some other things too, with business and with theater as well. As long as it is within the realm or the scope of entertainment, we will cover it. Now, with that being said, I want to welcome my co-host, Mr. Spillman, Truly Spill. Let me bring him on now. What's going on,
What's up?
man?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's going on? What's
Good.
going on?
Good afternoon. Nothing much. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night. How's everybody doing today? It's cherry blossom season. Everybody's
That it is,
crawled out of their little holes. We
right?
back in the
Right?
springtime. So
Right. Even though
things are
even though the
good.
weather, I was about to say, even though the weather's kind of gray today, like it was a good turnout of people because I was out and about today, and there were a lot of
Oh yeah.
people, doing their thing today. So I was kind of surprised, considering that it wasn't, as sunny as I'm assuming, most people anticipated or expected that, or hoping maybe that it would be
Oh
today.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
But it's great to be. The springtime is here. So
only thing I'm
make
not
sure.
jealous of are the allergies. That's the only
Oh
thing I'm
yeah.
not. That's This is the only thing that I'm not looking forward to is the allergies. The weather,
Oh yeah.
I love, but yeah, that's the only thing.
You gotta get
But
that nose spray thing. I'm not gonna
yeah,
say the
right.
name until they sponsor the podcast, but the
There
nose
you go.
spray people, they
There,
making good money over there.
there you go. There you go. But with that being said, as I said, there are a lot of things that we're going to get into. Well, a couple of things that we'll get into. I know a lot of times we normally span about an hour, but it'll be a little shorter this time, a little more lean today. But I want to start us off by getting into our first story, and it's basically covering a couple of cons that are happening this weekend, and that's none other than GalaxyCon Richmond and WonderCon. And just to give you, just a bit of information about, these two shows, for GalaxyCon, it's an event that, is essentially sees about 20 to 50,000 attendees at its show. Just as the name specifies, it happens in Richmond, and it has all the typical trappings that we would expect out of a con, where they have celebrity guests. They have an exhibit hall floor, panels, things of that nature. If you are a con veteran, it has all of those trappings, as I said, that you would enjoy. Now, switching gears with WonderCon, it is affiliated actually with San Diego Comic Con. Comic Con took over the show back in 2002. So at this point, I guess it's been just over, just a shade over 20 years. It has moved uh, um, from San Francisco or I should say, it started in Oakland and moved to San Francisco. However, it moved over to Anaheim back in 2012. Since there's construction happening currently at its San Francisco venue, which is the Moscone Center. So since 2012, it's been happening in Anaheim, and just in the same similar sense with GalaxyCon Richmond, it runs the gamut in terms of what it provides to its attendees, covering all aspects of pop culture, just as you would expect out of San Diego Comic Con, its larger show, which would be comics, movies, TV, animation, and much more. So with that, being said, we did have some coverage that we were providing with WonderCon, and we will continue actually to do so uh, going into the weeks to come, even beyond the show. And similarly, we do have a couple of our hosts, which you guys, if you guys were tuning in a little earlier, we have two of our hosts that are at GalaxyCon. Actually, now that I think of it, three hosts that are at GalaxyCon, because we have one of our hosts who does the show, and just as you saw earlier today, we were hosting or shooting live, doing our Star Trek show with two of our hosts at GalaxyCon as well. So, with all of that said, I know that was a lot. Um, what are your thoughts on the Spillman? I know you have you had a chance to hit GalaxyCon as of yet. I know you haven't been to WonderCon yet, but uh,
I
have you?
haven't been to GalaxyCon, but Richmond, Virginia is a wonderful time. I've spent many of enjoyable night walking up, gaunting up and down Broad Street, enjoying myself. You know, the people in Richmond embrace these kind of kind of things like art and just being funky cool people. So I do definitely think that if I had the chance to, I would definitely go to GalaxyCon. I didn't, unfortunately, know it was this week. I would have definitely wanted to go. But the cherry blossoms, they called me. They're at peak bloom right now, so I had to get out to get some of the cherry blossoms going so I could get my samurai on. Much like something we'll talk about a little later, but I
Right,
definitely
right,
was,
right. I like that. I
I
like that. It's a good
definitely,
little segue to set up.
that's
Okay,
right.
okay.
I
I
did my
see you.
little samurai
I
thing with the
see
cherry
you. I
blossom.
see
So
you.
yeah, yeah, I'm locked in with, with everything. So yeah, but no, I like Richmond. It's a good town. It's fun times. It's not too expensive. I imagine WonderCon is similar, but Anaheim is in a very nice part of the country, so I'm sure the tickets might be a little bit more expensive, but you might see a little bit more cooler stuff. So I'm ready to go this time next year. Like I said 2 weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen, hashtag Brandon in a cosplay. We're gonna get him in something. We're gonna get him in something. Maybe we'll get him dressed up like Creed from Apollo. He can dress up like Creed and he can knock some people out. That would be fun. Maybe I
All
could
right.
dress up like the alien or something. That'd be cool. Maybe Jason. That'd be scary. But also, I could be something fun too. So fans, log in, comment on every picture what you want him to be. Just make sure we get that
We'll do
engagement.
it. We'll do a
You
poll. I'll
guys,
do a poll on YouTube. Maybe how about
that's
that?
right.
We'll do a poll on
We're gonna do
YouTube.
a poll. We're gonna get him in a cost, and that's what it is.
But I tell you what, I'm gonna be shallow about it. We want to attach
Uh-huh.
it to a subscriber count. How about that?
That's it.
So
That's it.
if when we hit a
Definitely.
certain, yeah, I'm gonna attach the subscriber count to that because that's the only
Yeah.
way that's gonna happen, home. So,
That's
but
right. That's
I'm
fine.
with. Hey,
That's
I'm game.
fine. The
I'm game.
people, the
No, I'm
people
game.
will listen to me. The people are here.
But yes, but yeah, no. I'm gonna get you out there, man. For whether it's WonderCon or San Diego Comic Con. I know you still have yet to be at San Diego Comic Con yet. So much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. Looking forward to going this year. But yeah, we're gonna get you out there, man. That is definitely a bet. But yeah, no, it's cool. I haven't been to GalaxyCon as of yet. I've heard a lot of terrific things about this show, and in terms of like the guests, at least from what I've observed over the last few years of the guests that they've been able to bring in, it's been pretty impressive. The guests that they've been able to attract to their show. So even though I wasn't able to hit it this year, I'm gonna try to make an attempt to indeed attend next year. I know that they have GalaxyCon. Richmond is just one of their shows. They have other shows in a few other destinations. However, Richmond is the most convenient to us, so that would probably be the more likely a show of theirs that I would attend out of the others that they have. But yeah, no. As I said, both shows are happening this weekend. If you guys are at the show, feel free to drop us a comment and let us know, how you guys are enjoying yourselves. And perhaps, just let us know some things that, should in when we go in the future, in the coming years, some things that we should check out in terms of some of the things that the show has to offer. As I said, I've heard a lot of great things through mutual friends and other folks that have gone to GalaxyCon. And similarly, like even though I'm doing virtual coverage for WonderCon this year, if you guys are at WonderCon, feel free to drop a comment and let us know, how it's going for you this year. Because it's interesting because this is essentially our sophomore year out of quote unquote being out of the pandemic. And so it's going to be fascinating to see, not just with WonderCon, but also with San Diego Comic-Con in a couple of months, what that's going to look like now that we're a little further. We're not quite out of the woods yet, but we're a little further away from, where we were in terms of the pandemic. So we'll be it more than likely it'll be that much closer to what we feel is like the quote unquote normal feel of a con. Last year was a little strange because around that time we were kind of in, I like to say, kind of that in between kind of space where you still have folks that didn't really feel comfortable wearing not wearing masks, and then you have folks that wanted to not use masks. So and then we were in a kind of that spot where a lot of shows weren't really enforcing it, and some were. So I feel like these days, or more than likely with this year, with a lot of the shows that we have this year, we'll be even further from that I guess you can say that space, that headspace that maybe a lot of attendees may be in, or even the shows in terms of what they, are doing in terms of their policy. So definitely be interesting. My first show, well, I can't say my first. I have been to a couple of cons thus far this year, but I haven't been to the West Coast as of yet. No, that's not true. I did go to CES, but at least a California show. Haven't been to a California show yet as of this year. But did you have any other final thoughts before we move on to our next story?
Yeah, man. I just, the cons are a great opportunity. Even if we get Brandon to dress up like Grogu and I could be the Mandalorian, or we could reverse roles and he could be the Mandalorian, I could be a big Grogu. Trust me,
Hey, there
ladies
you
and
go.
gentlemen.
That would be
Trust
hilarious.
me, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be great, and
That would be hilarious.
it'll
I'll
it'll
give you
be
that.
something that'll be fun. There you go. So I just think that Brandon really needs to push this envelope. The fans want it, I want it, and that's what we all want to see. So, let's get to these cons. Thanks to the team that covered in Richmond. It's a great time, but we can just continue on to the next topic.
All right, cool. All right, so switching gears. Last week we had Ernie Hudson on the show. Shout out to Ernie. Had him on the show talking champions. However, last week he had shared some news that definitely want to get into, and that's none other than, and let me take this off now, none other, which you actually have here in the title, or in our title photo for this week, is that he revealed that they are shooting or have been shooting Ghostbusters since Monday. So this time last week, when we were doing the interview on Friday, and this is exclusive from us, not from anyone else, he revealed that Friday, he revealed that on Monday, he would be heading to London to shoot the brand new Ghostbusters. Now, just to give you, some info, on that current Ghostbusters film. The prior film, if you guys recall, and I want to say it was 2021. If you're able to look that up for me real quick, Spill. But the current sequel, well, they should say Ghostbusters Afterlife, the last film that we had, was directed by Jason Reitman, who many of you know he is the son of producer Ivan Reitman, who did the original two Ghostbusters. But he is there. He's switching. You're kind of having a switching of the guard, so to speak, where he's actually moving over into the producer role, and one of the co-writers of Afterlife, his name is Gil Keenan. He's actually going to be hopping into the director's chair for this upcoming film. Right now, it's under the moniker of Firehouse. But yes, they've been shooting since Monday, and there hasn't been a whole lot of details about what the plot has been. However, there have been some rumors going around, that perhaps the reason why the story is taking place in London is because they are the story might expand into there being other locations of Ghostbuster facilities, not just the one that we know and love. So uh Spills, you hear this, man, you hear this news, and this is directly from the mouth of OG Ghostbuster Ernie Hudson. What are your thoughts on us getting yet another Ghostbusters, and having it shoot in London, and perhaps some truth behind some of the info that we have regarding the potential plot?
Just
Sorry,
okay,
lost you for a
yes, here
second.
I
Go
am.
ahead.
Here I am. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
You're good. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I'm sorry. But I just want people to know, as a geriatric millennial, nothing warms my heart more than to see the king, Ernie Hudson, one of my personal heroes, one of the greats of all times, one of the greats, out here making another Ghostbusters movie. And them continuing the franchise. I know the people on the internet, I like to get on your people on the internet being upset with the Ghostbusters movie that came out with Big Les and everybody. But that was a pretty funny Ghostbusters movie. I like how they made Thor kind of like the Janine, and he was kind of silly in the movie. That was good. I haven't seen Afterlife yet, because that was in the rigmarole of the main of the COVID outbreak, and I was living in my hamster hole at the time. I was still afraid of the outside. I was still washing down my groceries, but I will definitely check out this newest one, and I'll probably, get on the Amazon to make sure I support the Afterlife one. But Ghostbusters is a franchise. I still have my Ghostbusters toys in my mama's attic somewhere. I remember we had all of the things, and I even made a pilgrimage to New York to see the actual firehouse. So I'm definitely excited about this. I'm high key jealous that Brandon got to interview Ernie because he's a personal hero of mine, and I'm just so excited for the new Ghostbusters movie. And we can just continue on with this Ghostbusters theme. It's just a great franchise. And it's so beloved. So, I love everything they do with the franchise. How about yourself?
So I have quite a history with Ghostbusters, and let me rewind it to just to recap what you were talking about with Ernie. Ernie has been is such an iconic actor, and all the the films, and I told him this directly, all the films that he has been a part of, and what he's brought to those franchises. I mean we talk about Ghostbusters, but we don't talk about The Crow. We
Yes.
talk about Congo. I was telling him, like, getting real deep with it, because I love my horror movies, is Leviathan. I mean, a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people sleep on the film Leviathan, but like Leviathan is a really effective like horror movie, and it has like pretty decent what is it practical effects. And I know it kind of gets swallowed up in being compared to The Thing, and understandably so. The Thing is a classic to this day. As a matter of fact, if anyone knows me, they know it's my favorite film across any genre is The Thing. But yeah, like he's been a part of and brought impressive performances across a multitude of films. And you know it's good to, based off of, and I'll encourage anyone to check out the full interview. I'll try to leave the full interview in the link or in the comments. But to know the kind of the conflicted, or the kind of, I guess you could say, the not love hate relationship that Ernie Hudson has had with the franchise, but I would just say conflicted, is those initial couple of films that he did with Ghostbusters, wasn't the greatest experience for him. You know,
Yes, for
and
sure.
and how, at that time he wasn't really, not necessarily by the cast, not by the cast at all. The cast was very supportive, but by the studio, you know, at the time, they weren't really including him in the the promotional material of the film at that time. And he felt, very, I guess you could say very targeted in terms of like not feeling like he was, at least in the eyes of the studio, a part of the franchise. And so, good on Jason. As I said, Jason Reitman is the son of Ivan Reitman. Good on Jason Reitman to kind of, as when they were doing Afterlife, to clear the air, so to speak, and to, ensure that, that experience that he had doing the first two films wouldn't be a repeat experience when he did Afterlife. And so much so that, he's now, coming back for, this new installment. And as I said, continue to definitely check out that interview, because he goes into some more details about, um while it was, a great experience with Afterlife, and even, being approached to do this film, he still had to do a lot of negotiating, in order for him to feel, to feel good about being able to join, the new installment. And with all of that being said, backtracking with my history is, I remember seeing the good first Ghostbusters. I enjoyed the first film. The second film, and mind you guys, I'm gonna really age myself. I'm trying to remember, second film came out in 1990. I want to say. I want to
89,
say
90, somewhere around there. It's
so.
fuzzy, but it's right around there.
So I want to say is, I'll look it up real quick. But be that as it may, when I went to the movie theaters to see it, I didn't stick around to see the second film, because that that scene that we had with the villain with the painting was so creepy that, like, when they have that scene at like the towards the beginning of the film, and you guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen the second film, where like the face like comes out of the painting, like for a moment. I remember,
Hmm.
I think I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I could not like stay in the theater. Like I think I screamed out loud, and then like I had to be escorted. Like my parent had to escort me out the theater, because like
Oh no.
I couldn't deal with that scene. But um, a couple of years later, I ended up checking out, that film. Yeah, 89. 89. I looked it up.
89, yeah,
It was 89. Uh, but but yeah, no, I enjoyed that film. I appreciate what they tried to do with with the all female Ghostbusters. I know for a lot of people that wasn't their cup of tea, but I still appreciate the effort that was taken on what they were trying to do with it, to do something different. Because
yeah,
so many times when we're thinking about a franchise, there's always a idea of basically just being comfortable with, or just going with what we anticipate or what we expect with that franchise, and not bringing any like new energy or new elements to it. So
for
I
sure,
rather them try something new than to kind of just do a rehash of a already plot point or storyline that we've had already. um so I mean, it's exciting to check it out. And then lastly, I'll say for Afterlife, I'll be honest, going into Afterlife, I wasn't really excited, because it's been so long. And I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical at the time, before as I was watching Afterlife, of why are they bringing back another Ghostbusters? The first two are great. Like, leave it alone. There was an attempt made, in doing the spinoff. Um, I went in with an open mind, but it didn't. It wasn't something that really, worked in some cases versus what we had in the second film. So, we've seen it in other franchises too. Aliens. I could go into some other franchises where there's been a huge block of time before we've had the next sequel, and when they wait that long, a lot of times I feel like they miss their opportunity, striking while the
Yeah, the
iron's hot,
magic is
right?
gone.
Yeah, is
Yeah.
too much time has passed. So I was like, oh, I don't know if this is really gonna work. But to my surprise, like I enjoyed the film, quite a bit. It works on its own, just as a film. But if you know the first two Ghostbusters, there are a lot of like, Easter eggs in there and a lot of things to enjoy that take you back to those original two films for sure. Even down to like, the villain, even down to
Hmm.
the quotes that you have, like "Are you a god?" Like so, like
Definitely.
all of those lines. So, um, I'm looking forward to seeing what they have, and hopefully they're able to still bring back that magic that they had in the recent installment. Do you have any other thoughts before we get into our last story?
No, I'm just happy that Ernie Hudson's getting his flowers. Low key, the people talk bad about the all female cast, but Ernie was the most featured of all of the original Ghostbusters in
He
that
was,
movie,
he was, yeah.
and he helped to bridge the gap between the two casts, and I think that that was good. I think that a lot of times in Hollywood we get, we talk about the bad times that people had, but I honestly don't think that I would have been as big a fan of the original Ghostbusters movies if it wasn't for Ernie Hudson's performance. I thought that he was, he may not have had as many lines or as many like, scenes that was dedicated to him, but truly, he was one of the reasons that I, love the franchise. I love like, what he's done. The I just love the Ghostbusters. It's one of the greatest franchises ever. I still am waiting for the Ghostbusters 3 movie. They always used to tease us with in the early 90s that they're never going to come out with, but they would tease us with, and you'd see it on TV and they'd be like, oh, we're working on effects, but we never got it. But it's just good to see that the franchise is still strong and that it's still going on. But like you said, loved it. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, to add to that, to what you were saying, and this is testament again to Ernie and his abilities as an actor is, and he comments on it, is in those first two films, there were a lot of lines that he originally in the script, he wasn't supposed to have,
Hmm.
and Bill Murray, gave it to him to say. But while that's all great and good, it was still up to Ernie to be able to pull off those lines and to be able to have those one liners, to have those lines land. So like they couldn't fall flat. He still had to perform them and say them effectively. And testament to him that he did. And that's just again testament to him as an artist, as a performer, as an actor. So, uh, but let's hop into some talk of a certain little action movie perhaps you guys have heard um of the Baba Yaga, the Mr. John Wick. So John Wick came out this weekend. um Spills and I both had a chance to see. I think you is probably fresher in your head than it is in
Extremely
mine.
fresh, ladies and gentlemen. Extremely fresh.
I was
I've
about to
got
say,
things to say.
okay, but
John
yes.
Wick 4. Oh,
Yes. Yes. So yeah, it came out this weekend, as I said, and there were a lot of, a couple of loose ends that tie up, from the prior three installments. But I feel, all in all, there were a lot of things that it was able to tie up nicely, and come full circle, I want to say, with a lot of things. But since it was fresher in your head, Spills, I will punt it over to you first to discuss.
so I just want to start by saying this movie is set in three of the great cities in the world. So there's great views of everything. It's very beautiful. They've got us set in Tokyo with all the cherry blossoms, and they got all kinds of crazy samurais and swords and everything. We gotta definitely say thanks, Ray Williams. Thanks for chiming in. But rest in peace to Lance Riddick. Gone
For
too
sure.
soon.
For sure.
Gone
Thanks.
too
Shout
soon.
out to Ray. Thanks, Ray, for
Ray,
hopping in there and
shout
checking
out for
out.
that because great actor. He really made that character. He fleshed out that whole set piece with some of the things that he did to maintain order in that set. But the John Wick movies, all you got to say is the gung fu. Gung fu is one of the greatest action movie inventions ever. It's like something that you would think that already happened. Like when Young Thug came out in rap music, everybody was like, "Oh wow, he's the first person to say Young Thug." But you would think at the beginning someone would have already been Young Thug. And at the beginning of action movies, you would have thought they'd have been like, let's do karate or
Right.
kung fu with the gun. But
Right.
somehow they came up with it with this, and it just works. The action sequences are crazy. The scenes in the later part of the film, I don't want to give too many spoilers because this is pretty breaking news. I don't want to ruin anybody's like thing, but
Yeah, I'll put it in
I
so non spoiler, but go ahead.
non spoilers. We're not gonna do any. I'm not gonna do any spoilers, but just the choreography of the action scenes. They kept it fresh. The body count is crazy, and we love a action movie with a lot of body count. But they just, they caught it up. What's my man's name from the film? The guy that's on the sci-fi show. What is his name? The black guy. Like also, Ant Man is in this movie, ladies and gentlemen. Ant
Yes,
Man
he
is
is.
in the movie,
Donnie Yen.
and he's doing the
Yes.
Ant Man stuff for real. Oh, it's just so cold. Oh, my girlfriend had to tell me. She said, "Hey, you're being too loud. You're being excited." And I was like, "I'm sorry, baby. It's Ant Man. It's Ant Man. He was doing all kinds of moves." She calmed me
Yeah.
down, and I was like, "You're right, baby. You're right. We in this movie theater. I'm not gonna be that guy." But oh my gosh. Oh, John Wick 4, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Oh,
indeed.
what are your thoughts?
So before I get into the my thoughts on it, were there any things, even if they were like nitpicky things, or any things for you that like didn't work or like that you took issue with?
You have to suspend belief because obviously this is not the real world. But like, there's a scene where they're in a traffic circle, and the like, I love the scene because people are getting hit by cars left and right.
And this isn't, I was going to say, let me preface this because we said non-spoiler. So let me preface this. This isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer, y'all. So
and
just letting y'all
it's just
know. But
like
go ahead.
it's just like man, the like obviously if this is the real world, if somebody's getting hit, like because this is one of the most famous. This is actually not one of the most famous. It's probably the most famous traffic circle in the whole world. You know, way bigger than Logan Circle, DuPont Circle, anything in DC or America, really. The biggest traffic circle in the world. And it just, well, no, I'll tell you what it is. I've been to France before, and I asked myself, I said, where are all the motorcycles at? Because, it was like all passenger cars. That's not how it is in Paris. People don't have passenger cars like that. I was like, where are the motorcycles? And then right when I said that, a motorcycle appeared, and I was like, thank you, John Wick. Thank you. So it was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
All right, cool. So all right, so I'll probably comment on many of the same things that you had, but there were a couple of things. I guess I'll start off with what didn't work for me. What didn't work is something that, as we have gotten from, there was a small hint of it in the first film, and as we've gotten from installment to installment to installment, and you'll laugh when I say, or you'll get what I mean when I say this, is that I feel like it's starting to suffer from Fast and Furious itis, if that
Oh
makes
yeah.
sense.
Oh
Where
yeah.
like, things, and again, like, it's a movie, there's some things, you're suspending your belief, but also at the same time, these characters are not superheroes. Like, the things that they're hit with, the 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 places that they jump from and where they land, they places where they land from, heights that they land from. That's
Oh, for
all I'll
sure.
say. Where it's
For
like,
sure.
come on, man, like come
They
on,
just it's
like
pop
you
right
had
back
me.
up.
I'm like, you had me, but come on, man, like this is too much. So I mean, there are moments of that in there where I'm like, come on, guys, this is an awesome scene, and I'm really involved with it, and I'm enjoying it. But you taking me out of it when you have those little small moments where I'm like, come on, bro. So like there was that. And then I would also say it, believe it or not, and this is, a complaint that you normally hear it, going the opposite way, is that I feel that there was too much action. And let me explain. Let me explain on that, because a lot of people out there probably be like, what do you mean too much action? So, the movie clocks in at just a tad, just a shade under 3 hours.
Yeah.
And to their credit, there's not a dull moment within that film. There's a lot of, frenetic, kinetic, action set pieces, and that's awesome. But at the same time, just as you said, there are incredible set pieces, incredible action sequences that they have. But I feel like that because there's so much of it, you kind of get get what's the word? You kind of get dulled to it slightly in some moments because there's so much of it. It's almost like if we're comparing it to food, right? And like say there's a dessert that you really enjoy having, but you have it too much, and it takes the effect of actually having that dessert, because you're getting so much of it, say that you aren't able to really appreciate what you're having, because you're getting so much of it. Or if you're picturing like any type of junk food that you really like
It's like a
junk food
pizza
is great.
buffet.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we have a couple of comments in here. Bring Ray up in here. So yeah, shooting at her, man. Yeah. So, uh, yeah, I absolutely agree, Ray. But yeah, like in getting into that specifically, those are the two issues that I had. And then I'm trying to think if it was one other thing. So I talked about the action, and then also the instances where people were surviving things where it's like come on. So I guess it would be those two things. Those are only nitpicks that I have. And thankfully, based off of what where we are by the end, we should see a conclusion to that, hopefully. um
Hopefully.
hopefully based off of how things wrap up. But with all of that being said, because like I said, I wanted to get into my nitpicks first. You could tell that they were given far more money, to do, this film. If you
Oh,
if you
definitely.
if you put like a comparison like screen of John Wick 1 and John Wick 4, you could tell how much money, comparison budget wise, what we're dealing with between those two films. And don't get me wrong, I love each of the installments, for what they were able to do with what they were able to work with the budget that they were given. But you could tell that they were given a lot, far more than what they've ever had thus far, in prior installments. So, and to that credit, because of that, just like you said, we have all these globe trotting locations where we're given all these different set pieces that are, really awesome. Um, just like you commented on, the choreography, the action set pieces are terrific. And we have some cool new characters that are now a part of like the John Wick universe, which I actually will be interested to see, how the story continues with some of the additional characters that we now have in this universe.
For sure.
If they ever decide to, fork off with some of the additional new characters that they've introduced, I wouldn't take issue with it because they were, some cool characters, and they've actually established some new threads, so to speak, based off of what's transpired in this movie that could have repercussions going forward if they with new installments. I know that there are some other films within the universe or projects within the universe that are happening. We have the Continental, which is supposed to be a prequel, to the events of John Wick, and it's supposed to be following Ian McShane's character. I'm brain
Hmm.
farting on the character's name, but it's supposed to be following a younger version.
Winston.
Winston, thank you. It's supposed to be
Yeah, there
following a
you go.
younger version of Winston, and his rise, within to be, head of the Continental that we know in New York. But we also have, because it's supposed to be a spinoff of what was introduced in John Wick 3. They're supposed to be also be doing one with that place that we were introduced to with the ballerinas, where they're actually
Hmm.
going to be, taking continuing a story from what was introduced there as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of those two projects, and then it'll also be interesting to see where the story might continue in other ways. But do you have any additional thoughts before we wrap up here tonight?
Going back on the issue with the timeline, like the movie, I feel like was maybe 20 minutes to half an hour too long
Mhm.
because it got to a point where you didn't know which bad guys were dying anymore because they kind of started looking the same. Like,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
it was kind of like on the old school beat 'em up video games where they didn't make new sprites, they just colored them differently and they were just a little
right,
bit harder
right,
to
right,
beat.
right, 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 right.
That's what
Yeah,
it started to
I'm
feel
thinking,
like
I'm
towards
thinking
the end of the
Streets of
movie.
Rage. I'm gonna age
Yes,
myself.
definitely
Streets of
like
Rage,
that.
guys.
Definitely like that. Or Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time,
There you
where the
go.
Foot Clan would be darker or different colors, and like the blue ones was the easiest ones, but by the end you were fighting Super Foot Clan ninjas. But it was just it got to a point where it was like, who if I showed up and I was in a room and like 38 of my friends had been murdered mercilessly, would I want to fight this dude? Like, because if I see my man's get murdered in 38 seconds or something quick like that, I don't know if I'd be too gung ho on ready to fight him and stuff.
I will say this though, there are some, and one of the things, this is on the plus side. There are some other things that are really cool that people may see or may notice on a second viewing. Thankfully on the
Hmm.
first viewing, I was able to pick up on it, which was really cool to be able to realize that is that when it comes to film scores, I'm a big nerd about film scores. I love film scores. Shout out to John Williams,
Oh yeah.
shout out to Danny Elfman. And the list goes on and on,
Shout
of
out to the
all the
RZA.
there you go. There you go. Shout out to many of the composers that we have out there. John Ottman, who's been on our show before. Usual Suspects with the X-Men, the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, and many others. But there are a lot of callbacks if
Oh
you
yeah.
are familiar with the score that we have with John Wick and what we've had in a lot of those scenes, there are a lot of callbacks of those scores, of those musical score parts of that musical score that we had in the first John Wick film that was played again in this installment, and it was also played during an action sequence. So like there was an action sequence that happened. I'm not going to say which. There was an action sequence that happened in the first John Wick film that we had a callback of that same part of the score in an action sequence that happened towards the end of this film, and that was cool. Additionally, as a kind of a outside of the score, there were a lot of not. I wouldn't say this would be a visual type of gag, but there was a sound related one where towards the end where some of our characters had to take off some of their garments, you were hearing the bullets that were coming
All those
off,
bullets.
all falling on
Oh,
the ground. Like that was really cool. So I don't
yeah,
not I'm not that's all I'll say, because I don't want to get into, I don't feel like that's a spoiler. That's just something because you have no context of that. But
yeah,
um there is a scene that is plays off of what we had established in the John Wick films, which is that they have the Kevlar on their in on the garments that they have, on the blazers that they have, on the clothes that they have. And by virtue of that, they really pay that forward in this film in one sequence when they're showing having two of the characters remove some of those garments, and as they're removing it, you're just hearing of all these, like, bullets that must have still been embedded in the garments and falling off, as it was, as it was happening. So but yeah, any other final thoughts?
yeah. I just, the Kevlar situation with the suits is kind of like like when it was raining. It's like you ever seen the BG, the first BG album when it was like raining bullets on the BG album
Yes.
back in
Yeah,
the day?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it was
yeah.
like. It was like they just raining bullets, but just the set, the choreography on this movie was great. I think that Keanu Reeves is one of the, like, just because he had the idea. Like I think that he's really like the idea man behind a lot of the John Wick, like, genre, everything, the Baba Yaga mythology and everything. He really is the boogeyman. So, it was at points where it seemed like he was like a horror movie villain. Like, he'd show up and just bad things
Wreak
would
havoc.
happen for people. Just bad things are happening. And it's not even like, and also it's, in a lot of action movies, people are running places. It doesn't really seem like John Wick runs. It seems like John Wick, he be moving fast when he's doing karate moves or kung fu moves, to protect himself and everything. But get to point A to point B, John Wick moves at his own pace because John Wick blots out the sun with his bullets. Like he's the Xerxes of bullets. The Xerxes the bullets. Like, oh my God, he's just the amount of reloads that he really probably had to do was just crazy. But it was like an old John Woo movie almost. So it had a lot of callbacks. If you're a fan of the genre, it definitely hit all the points that people want to have. Like it hit the points. He was, John Wick for it. It didn't have a big, like, gaudy villain like some of the other movies have had. Well, I mean, but no, I'm lying. They had Imp Man in the whole movie, and Imp Man was doing Imp Man things, and he was just so cold. It was just, I can't. I don't want to give up too much, but just know Imp Man is Imp Man in the joke. I have to go home and tell my father about it, because my father told me about Imp Man. But first, my father came to me one day. He was like, "You don't know about the Imp Man, do you?" We sat up all afternoon watching Imp Man movie. So, he just. I need to learn the characters' names. I know that this is bad for television and podcasting, and I know people like to hear me say my crazy things that I say, but Ant Man in this movie, he's
Donnie
just
Yen.
cold.
Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen. He
Donnie Yen is
was
a
just
bad dude.
cold. He
Donnie Yen
was
is a
the
bad dude.
coldest. Oh,
Bad dude. Bad
my
dude. That's
girlfriend
all
didn't
I can
know who he
say.
was, and she was like, "He is a bad man. He's like John Wick. He's doing all the John Wick things." I
Bad
was like,
dude.
"That's Ant Man, baby."
Hey, bad dude. I've been following
Yeah.
following his career, for quite a while. As I said, shout out to Donnie Yen. He's been in the game for quite, quite a long time. He's right up there with Michelle Yeoh. Shout out to Michelle Yeoh, who won her
Oh yeah.
Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's at the same caliber as Jet Li, as Jackie Chan. He's right up there with with those all those actors. So because all the films that I've seen him in, whether it has and right now, as I say, he's been in so many. I'm thinking of the Legend of
Oh
um
yeah.
what is it, Iron Monkey? Like Iron
Yeah,
Monkey, awesome. He's awesome in that. I'm thinking of people forget this. He was in Blade 2.
yeah,
He was in Highlander Endgame. I mean, I could go down, the list. He was in Hero. Speaking of Jet Li, he was in
yeah,
Hero.
yeah.
Which, if I recall, I want to say it was nominated. I don't know about the performances, but I want to say the film was nominated for an Oscar. I'll confirm. I want to say, yeah, it was nominated for an Oscar. That he starred in. That was an incredible film. So yeah, like no doubt he,
No doubt.
he's awesome. But we're going to wrap it up here. Was there any other things that you want to discuss before I punt it over to you to give your socials, man?
No,
I
I'm,
sounded really wrong.
I'm just, 77333625. That's not it. So please don't
I'm
put
about to
that in
say,
and try to get
oh my
that
gosh,
wouldn't yeah, that would have
wow.
been
I
crazy.
was like, that sounded
Yeah,
really
that'd have
wrong.
been
But yeah, go
crazy.
ahead.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
crazy. But no, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate coming here every week. I took the time out today specifically to watch this John Wick movie to give you guys actual a review of it because it was such a great movie. It was just yeah,
indeed.
just just crazy. They were just the care the everything was good, but the John Wick, Baba Yaga, ladies and gentlemen, he's the boogeyman. He just it's just a great film. I just
And a
although
lot
we
of people have commented on this, like, and I'll second that. There aren't a lot of franchises that we have that you can easily say that each of the installments are great in their own right. A lot of
for
times you
sure.
have diminishing returns as you're going from installment to installment to installment, but they up the ante in every single installment, and each of them are really good, if not great.
And I'm gonna
So
tell you another thing. I'm gonna tell you another thing, and this is what it is too. They don't lean on special effects CGI stuff. They don't lean on that stuff, and that's what I said about what was wrong with Batfleck. Batfleck did a lot of
they don't
CGI.
lean
That's why I
on
don't
a lot
like him.
of it. They don't lean on a lot of it. So because
They
I
don't
know
lean on a lot of it.
yeah,
It's a lot of practical effects. When somebody fall down the steps in these movies, somebody really fall down the steps. I don't
yeah.
know if Keanu fell down the steps if ever he falls down the steps, but
That was one of
that's a
those
lot of
moments I was like,
steps.
that was one of those moments I was like, come on, bro. Come on, man. Come on,
I've
bro.
seen them steps
I
in
was
real
like, come
life,
on, bro.
bro.
No, no, no,
That's a
no.
lot
I'm
of
not. I'm
steps.
not. I'm not talking about the location,
Woo,
the venue. I'm talking
woo.
about the circumstances that made that happen. I was like, bro, come on,
He had a
come on, bro.
Kevlar blazer on, man. It's a Kevlar
Okay,
blazer.
we not gonna get
It's a
into that. We gonna
Kevlar
let
blazer.
people see it. We
The
gonna let people
blazer's
see it.
Kevlar, but still,
Let people
the
see it. But yeah,
practical effects. It's like how when the Migos came out of rap music, they brought back the soul of music because they actually were in the studio rapping together instead of putting it on a computer and mailing it to each other. They actually were working together to make the art. So because a lot of the choreography is practical and everything, and Keanu's a stickler for this kind of stuff. So because he does all of that, that's what lends these movies to be so good because it's actually like these people put time and energy into it. It's not a robot that somebody's working on for 10 months that you stand in front of a green screen and we don't know what it looks like. Like most of these effects are practical effects. So
for sure.
it just brings the life back into movies. And I know that we do a lot of punch by numbers these days with the effects and everything, but when you actually sit down and choreograph do the choreography with this stuff and make it real, it works so much better. And that's why these movies have been so successful to me. But I'll let you get your piece. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, follow me, Truly Spill, on Instagram. I'm having a good time on there. I love all the engagement that we do. Remember to give the podcast and all of our properties 5 stars because we do hard work here, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget it, Brandon.
All right, there you go. There you go. So again, co-host Spillman. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, as well, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on Twitter, as you can see down below, but also Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. And also, you can, believe it or not, we have our own hashtag. So you have TWnRMNSU. So that's This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. If you head over to our Twitter, you can catch the other hashtags that we have for the other shows, so that way you're able to follow along with the content there. But be that as it may, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe, out there, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.